Okay, so I'm going to use dablet.com here, which allows us to be able to type HTML and see the result pretty instantly as it would display in a web browser up here at the top. And I'm just going to go through some of the HTML elements that are covered in Chapter 2. So the first of these is heading 1. So in this case, we aren't going to have to add the header tag or the doc type declaration and all that. Dablet is taking care of that stuff for us. So we're just going to focus on the elements themselves. So I'm going to put in heading 1. Heading 2. Heading 3, and so forth. And what you'll notice is that as I move through the headings, each time I'm using an opening and closing tag, and as the numbers get higher, the resultant heading gets smaller until we get to heading 6. Now, I'm not sure there's such a thing as a heading 7. I don't believe there is. So if we look, yeah, once we get down to heading 7, it starts acting like a paragraph more or less. So that's really just a false heading. There's no such thing as a heading 7, and the browser's just doing its best to interpret it and overlook that it doesn't really understand it. So we're just going to delete that. And here you have it, heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. By the time you get down to heading 6, it's rather small. And really, if we add some paragraph text, I'm just going to come and grab some Latin from this website here that we can use as a test. Copy, come back over here, and I'll paste it into my paragraph. You'll notice that when we add paragraph text, it's actually bigger than the heading 6, and so it's pretty rare, at least in my experience, to see anything beyond a heading 4 in HTML, just because heading 5 and 6 are so small. But semantically, headings 5 and 6 mean something to the browser. So if somebody's coming along with a screen reader or anything that really parses out the text of the page, it will recognize headings 5 and 6 as headings and as something separate and distinct from paragraph text. And so they still do serve a purpose. You just don't see them used super often because of the visual closeness they have to actual paragraph text. Now, in style sheets, you can style them to do whatever you want them to do. You can style them to be bigger or blue or red or whatever and kind of overcome some of that. Okay, so we already have a paragraph here, and you notice to use a paragraph, I used the opening and closing P tag. And in every case where we have a closing tag, we have this slash character that comes after the left angle bracket here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just add another paragraph tag for effect. And again, I'll come and copy some more Latin, since I'm not feeling very creative to make up my own text. And I'm just using a Command-C, Command-V on my Mac to copy and paste. That would be Control-C, Control-V on your PC. Okay, so here we go. We see some additional text. Now I'm going to put in, let's see, here's, let's put in a line break. So somewhere along the middle here, let's pretend we want to do a simple line break. So you'll notice when I have a new paragraph, what the browser does by default, unless we were to use a style sheet and style it otherwise, is it essentially double spaces your break between paragraphs. So you have this roughly 12 pixel space in between these two paragraphs. Now, a line break acts a little bit differently. So you'll notice down here I've got my cursor, and I'm just going to type in BR, and I'm going to put a little slash at the end of it that kind of signals an opening and closing tag all combined into one. Now you don't need that slash, it's just habit for me because it's a an old XHTML thing, but it works okay. So here we go. I put in that line break, and now you see that I've got a break here in my paragraph, but it's a single line break. I'm not breaking over a gap of 12 or so pixels. I'm just breaking down to the next line. The other thing that's interesting about a line break is that what happens is all of this, everything in here is still considered part of the same paragraph. And so you'll learn a little bit later about block elements, but in HTML, many of the elements are considered block elements, and so the browser will treat them all as one block and will apply styles to that whole block and position them as a block. And so when you have a break in the middle of a paragraph, everything that follows that break remains part of the same block. So if we jump ahead a little bit here and drop in a style like a left margin of 20 pixels, which you'll learn a little bit more about that later when we're talking about CSS, you'll notice that that style affects everything here in this paragraph. So the break keeps everything in the same block but breaks it down another line. So we can add in another break, and now we get another extra space here, but we're all still part of the same block. Add yet another break, and there we are, down another space. Whereas if we were to separate these out as paragraphs and make the second one a new paragraph, you see now we lose that shared styling. So let's go ahead and just put that back to a break for the effect of it. Okay, and let's take a look at horizontal rules now. So that's another item that's in your textbook. Here's a horizontal rule. It's a very simple tag, HR. That just puts a line there on the page. Put my characteristic little line in there. Let's create another paragraph just so you can see what that horizontal rule does a little bit easier. Copy. Paste. Close our paragraph tag. See, HTML isn't so bad. The more you start to see it, the more it seems pretty basic. So there's our horizontal rule. It's just a line zoop, that goes right across in the middle from one end of the page all the way to the other end of the page. And unless we style it to be different, that's how it's going to be. So that's what a horizontal rule does. Pretty basic here. Now, honestly, sometimes horizontal rules can be overdone, as the book mentions. And if you look at older sites, you'll sometimes see this as being the case. So a lot of times you can use white space, or you can use borders, style borders, or things like that. But it is an element that you have available to you. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about block quotes. Let's take out this horizontal rule. And let's also take out this style that we have up here so that we can better demonstrate what the block quote does. Oops. A little keyboard shortcut there that made my browser skip up the page. Okay, so let's just turn this middle section here into a block quote. So rather than putting a paragraph tag, I'm going to put a block quote element. This is another very basic HTML element. So I need to make sure I change it at the beginning and at the end. And you see what happens there. All of a sudden, all of my text that's in between those block quote elements gets indented a bit from the rest of the page. And so this is intended to pull out block quotes on an HTML document. So say you're citing somebody putting in a larger quote, that's what you do. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and we'll stop there and we'll pick up some of the additional elements in our next video.